Well, the debate on AFSPA seems to have been reignited. Is the Gandhi son now batting for the removal of that act? When asked a specific question about the controversial Armed Forces Special Powers Act by Manipuri students, Congress Vice President Rahul Gandhi categorically said that force cannot be used to resolve any conflict. Let's first listen in to Rahul Gandhi's comment.
The presence of Armed Forces Special Power Act in Manipur is also responsible for our social harmony. It affects our state also. So what is your view? As the Armed Forces Special Power Act, which badly affected our normal living peoples and students in the states. Thank you, sir.
You cannot solve problems without discussion. You cannot solve problems by using force against people. There is a place to use force. There are times to use force. But you will get a solution when people come, talk, communicate with each other, and finally have the power to do what they want, have the power to fulfill their own destiny, they have the power to fulfill their dreams.
Made this comment at an interaction with students from various educational institutions of Northeast in Guwahati. The UPA government has so far rejected any demand for the removal of AFSPA from the insurgency-hit areas. The BJP too is against the removal of the controversial act, while the National Conference led by Umar Abdullah wants the act to be repealed from Jammu and Kashmir. Remember that AFSPA has been imposed in Manipur and Jammu and Kashmir at several points. It is the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister specifically who's been batting for the removal of the act. In fact, recently he said that he's confident the act will be removed before the end of the year. Strategic Affairs Editor Gaurav Sawant is now joining us with more on that story. Gaurav, the army doesn't seem to believe that this is the right time to remove AFSPA. But is it largely in context of Jammu and Kashmir, or do they also feel the same about Manipur, and why?
Maha, as far as the army is concerned, they follow instructions, they follow orders. If the government of the day should decide that the Armed Forces Special Powers Act needs to go, all they need to do is remove the Disturbed Areas Act, whether from Manipur or from Jammu and Kashmir, and the Armed Forces Special Powers Act can be revoked. It's an enabler, is what my army sources tell me. It's an enabler to ensure that terrorist forces do not gain ground once again from areas where the army has removed them and maintained and established peace. But is this lasting peace? That is for the government and the army to perhaps come together and decide. With me on this is Major General G.D. Bakshi. General Bakshi is a strategic analyst. He's the editor of Indian Military Review. And let me put that question to him. General Bakshi, Rahul Gandhi in Guwahati said force cannot be used to solve problems. The question was, is it time for the Armed Forces Special Powers Act to go, because it disturbs social harmony in Manipur? Is it time for AFSPA to go, especially in Manipur, or perhaps even pockets in Imphal?
Absolutely not. I think it's very unfortunate that Mr. Rahul Gandhi has not been properly briefed by his staffs. 2014 is the worst year you could choose to remove the AFSPA, especially from Jammu and Kashmir. Please don't forget that
we'll talk about Jammu and Kashmir, during the broadcast. But I want to focus on Manipur first. In Manipur, and you have commanded troops in Manipur. You've had areas in Manipur, Maha, where parts of Manipur were actually not even in control of the Indian government. There were several terrorist organizations, whether it was in Churachandpur or Chandel or closer to the Myanmar border, General, where you had anti-national forces who had taken over vast areas of Indian territory, where even in the late 1990s and 2000, the Indian army moved in to re-establish Indian flag and supremacy in that area. Now in Manipur, is it perhaps now time, because of relative calm and peace, to remove AFSPA?
Look, as far as Manipur is concerned, AFSPA was selectively removed from the Imphal belt. Yes. And what our experience was that all the hostiles, all the anti-national elements congregated inside Imphal from the area from where these powers had been revoked. and they got a sanctuary, they escaped the operations, and they have created a problem they will create for you in the longer term. This selective removal of AFSPA is even more dangerous than a full-scale removal. If you think the situation has turned fully normal, for God's sake, remove it from all over and tell the army to go back to the barracks. We are not there for tourism. We were sent there. Please don't forget that particular fact. But what I would like to emphasize at this stage, in the national interest, as an old soldier, as a veteran with white hair, you couldn't have chosen worse timings. Okay. As long as you link it to Jammu and Kashmir.
Okay, specifically if we were to talk about Jammu and Kashmir, the Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah has been battling for removal of AFSPA at least in 6 pockets of Jammu and Kashmir, including capital Srinagar. The former Union Home Minister, the current Finance Minister P. Chidambaram was on board, but for some reason our sources tell us that Defence Minister A.K. Antony and the Chief of the Army Staff were not in favour of removal of AFSPA, but Omar Abdullah is still hopeful that by December AFSPA will be removed from parts of J&K. What gives him the confidence? Because he's the Chief Minister on ground. He has reason to believe the situation is normalised.
I think he should read his intelligence reports, which are fed to him by the Intelligence Bureau, the intelligence agencies, by the armed forces who are operating there. For God's sake, do we all realise that 2014 is the year in which the Americans are going to withdraw from Afghanistan? We are aware, and that yesterday's charge sheet should have driven it home to us, that there are factions of the Indian Mujahideen operating with the Al-Qaeda and Taliban in Afghanistan. Once Pakistan, creates a situation there in its favour, where do you think it's going to divert all these out-of-job Talibani, Al-Qaeda and Indian Mujahideen and Lashkar cadres? Sir, towards Jammu and Kashmir and towards the rest of India. You couldn't have chosen a worse time to open the gates to the Huns. It is like actually opening the gates to the enemy before the attack. So, can you, in sense of timings, it is awful.
Okay. So, whether it is Manipur or Jammu and Kashmir, the armed forces are of the opinion that the situation is not ripe to remove Armed Forces Special Powers Act, especially as the General pointed out, the charge sheet that the Ministry of Home Affairs has filed against Indian Mujahideen terrorists just indicates Lashkar-e-Taiba, Indian Mujahideen, Al-Qaeda. It's a very, very lethal cocktail that's operating in that area, and very soon either Jammu and Kashmir or the rest of the country will be open to them.
Gaurav Sawant and Major General Bakshi, many thanks both of you for joining us with those details.